The Tsukuba International Center of JICA, which stands for the Japan International Cooperation Agency, is located in Tsukuba Science City, a city that coexists in harmony with nature. JICA provides training courses for participants from other countries as part of its assistance to developing countries. The Tsukuba International Center provides training mainly on agriculture, rural development, and related science and technology. The Tsukuba International Center accepts about 1,000 participants from around 100 countries each year as part of its training program. The Tsukuba International Center also works closely with the local people in various activities. Participants therefore enjoy exposure to Japanese traditions and culture and get to know local Japanese families. We provide a variety of technical training courses, and today's course is the production technology of the manual rotary weeder for paddy. We are also going to explain how to use it. Let me explain the characteristics and structure of the manual rotary weeder. In rice cultivation, weeding after rice transplanting is very important, but hand-picking is hard work. The manual rotary weeder invented in Japan is a push-type weeder whose rotor turns as you push it. This enhanced the efficiency of weeding work in Japanese paddy fields. Weeders powered by an engine are also used in Japan. This weeder is most appropriately used when the conditions are met. Firstly, they plant rice in rows. Secondly, there is an appropriate water depth of about 2 centimeters. The main characteristics of the manual rotary weeder are: it buries the weeds in the ground to kill them. It supplies oxygen and releases hydrogen sulfide gas by pulverizing the soil, thereby vitalizing the rooting of rice. On top of this, many people can easily handle it, and because of its simple structure, we can easily make it ourselves. The rotary weeder consists of the following 4 parts: rotors to pulverize the soil, frame, handle, and skid that prevents the rotors from sinking in the mud. The width of the weeder varies depending on the row distance. In Japan, rows are generally 30 centimeters apart, but it is 20 centimeters, especially in tropical areas, so the width of the weeder varies depending on the country. Today, we are going to explain how to make a weeder for a row distance of 20 centimeters. Now we will make the weeder starting from the rotor, an important part of the weeder. It has 2 rotors and each has 6 spikes. Let's make the spikes for the rotors. Here are the dimensions of the spike. First, we'll have 6 metal plates measuring 82 by 128 by 1 millimeter in thickness. We'll have a pattern for the spike made in advance, and using the pattern, we draw lines. We make a punch mark for each hole to be screwed and then drill holes. Smooth down the holes by removing burrs with a file. Then, use a Tinman shear to cut the spikes as patterned. do this bit by bit in a few batches. The V-shaped ends of the cut parts should be cut off with a chisel. Once you cut them all, remove remaining burrs with the file. Now we've got 6 spikes. What's important here is to turn over 3 of the 6 spikes to divide the spikes into 2 groups. This is to arrange spikes alternately when installed to the rotor shaft. Now, give each spike a curved shape. Be sure to check the top and back of the metal plate when curving. Place the spike on the die, hold it down with a curved round bar, and start hitting the bar from the tip of the spike. Do not hit it below the bottom of the V-shaped level of the spike. As you continue hitting, the metal plate becomes deformed, so this deformation should be corrected at the end. Check the spikes for twisting and correct it if twisted. You can also make tools to provide curvature to spikes or curved round bars or the mold. Next, let's make a rotor shaft. Use hardwood to make a rotor shaft. Here is the dimension of the rotor shaft. Cut a timber to match the rotor shaft. Draw a line on the pattern and plane the timber into a hexagon. Then, bore a hole through the center of the rotor. When the hole is open, drill a larger hole for bushing. The cutting tool used to drill holes for bushing is made out of a 20mm hexagonal nut. Diagonally cut half of the hexagonal nut to make a blade. Attach the spikes to the rotor shaft. Please remember that 2 spikes should be installed alternately. To do this the right way, write A through F on the spikes in rotor so that each spike makes a pair with the side of the rotor that has the same letter. Put a mark at the positions to be fixed by screws. Match the bottom of the V-shape of the spike to the top edge of the rotor shaft. Drill a screw hole at each marked position. Be sure to install every spike accurately and carefully. Since it is difficult to screw down the last spike, bend the spike facing the screw up a bit and tighten the screw. Turn the spike back down after screwing. Let's make a shaft to be inserted into the rotor shaft. Here are the dimensions of the shaft. Prepare a 10mm round bar iron and a 6mm bolt and weld them together. When welding, attach nuts to the bolt to prevent melting of the thread. After welding, finish the weld with a grinder to make it smooth in shape. Now we are going to make the bushing. The bushing prevents the metal shaft from hitting the wooden rotary shaft and causing it to wear. The bushing is composed of rubber and aluminum. For rubber, you may use severed or waste belt from the belt conveyor and waste cans for aluminum. To begin with, die cut the rubber into a circle. The diameter of the circle is the same as that for the hexagonal nut. Then, die cut the inner small circle. The diameter of that circle is a bit larger than that of the shaft. We can make a tool to die cut the rubber, prepare a pipe with the same diameter as that of the hexagonal nut, and shave the outer edge of the pipe. When you've made the rubber bushing, make aluminum plates to sandwich the bushing. First, mark off a circle with the same diameter of the rubber on a plate of aluminum and drill a hole at the center. Align the 4 round plates at the center hole, fix them with the nail, and cut a hole slightly larger than that of the shaft. Put them through a bolt and cut the 4 all together in a circle using the pattern. Arrange the shape of the circles with the grinder. Use a file to remove burrs at the end. Attach the bushing to the rotor shaft. Lay the aluminum, rubber, and aluminum on the bushing in this order. After installing the bushing, temporarily put it through a shaft to make sure that the shaft does not touch the rotor shaft and that the hole of the bushing is not too small. If okay, fix the bushing with flush screws. You need 2 rotors, so make the other one the same way to complete the production of the rotors. I'll explain how to make the frames. There are 3 kinds of frames. Check the size of each frame in the drawings. Determine the hole positions at the center for each frame and drill holes for screws. Be sure to make a countersink for the side frame when you drill a hole for installation of the skid. Bend the front frame to 90 degrees. Set the metal frame to the vise, check verticality of the frame, and hit it to bend to the right angle. After that, make sure that the bend is accurately 90 degrees with the ruler. Weld the part to be fixed to the skid and the front frame to the side frame. What's important about welding is the connection of the 2 frames should form 90 degrees. You are recommended to fix them with the bolt in advance and then weld them. Remove the dirt or burrs from the welded points. Paint the frames to prevent rusting. Now we are going to make a handle and a skid. Carpentry plays the main role for production of these 2 parts. First, let me explain how to make a handle. Here is the dimension of the handle. First, shave a timber to make 32 millimeters square. Then, divide it into a handle shaft and a handle grip. Drill a hole at 2 locations on the handle shaft for screwing the bolts. Make a joint for connection of the handle grip and the handle shaft. You should cut the connecting parts smaller than the actual line. You may saw away a cut in the handle shaft, but you have to make a cut in the handle grip with the saw and chisel it out. Use a file to smooth the cut surfaces and edges. Now, attach the handle grip to the handle shaft and see if they are fit. Chamfer both ends of the handle grip to make it easy to hold during weeding. First, shave the corners with the large cutter and make them round with the metal file. When the corners are roughly round, use sandpaper for the finish. Attach the handle grip to the handle shaft using carpentry bonded nails. Drive nails slantwise. Now, I'm going to explain how to make a skid. This is the dimension of the skid. Draw a circle at the top end of the skid board. The circle is that of a radius of 100 millimeters. Put marks at screw hole positions for connection on the side. Cut off both corners with the saw and shave them round with the grinder. When the corners are roughly round, finish them up with sandpaper. Drill holes for screws. Now the handle and skid are completed. Paint them for decay prevention. Now we've got rotors, a frame, a handle, and a skid. Let's put them together. To begin with, fix the side frame to the skid. Use flush screws for screwing. At this stage, these screws should be just roughly tightened. Next, attach the shafts through which the rotors are inserted. Also, tighten the bolts loosely. When you bolt the rear shaft, fix the rear frame together. Now, the skid and frame assembly is done for one side. Now, put the rotors through the shafts. This is the correct way to put the rotors. This is the wrong way. Be sure to set the rotors correctly. Now fix the frame for the other side. Attach the handle shaft. You can adjust the angle of the handle shaft with the rear frame. Set the height of the handle depending on the user. Once the full assembly is done, make sure there is no deformation and firmly bolt all the elements. The ends of the bolts that fix the rotors should be cut off, and the cut surfaces should be smooth with the file. Now we've got a fully completed manual rotary weeder. Let's take the manual rotary weeder to the paddy and use it. In general, it is appropriate to use the weeder 2 to 3 times during the period from after rice transplanting to before heading. In other words, it should be done before the weeds grow up. The first weeding is generally done in a week to 10 days after rice transplanting. Later, use it whenever the weeds begin to grow. The important tip for weeding is to remove the weeder back and forth to rotate the rotors, sufficiently pulverizing the soil. When weeding is over, remove mud and other dirt to keep the weeder clean for the next use. Mud tends to stay particularly inside the spikes and between the shafts and the frames. Wash it thoroughly. Check to make sure that the rotors do not wobble. When the bushing is worn out, it should be replaced with the new one. Change the bushing before the shaft begins to hit the rotor. When you change bushings, remove either side of the frame set and change aluminum and rubber. How did JICA participants feel about the manual rotary weeder?
It's very easy to handle and also efficient and effective and easy to produce.
Can you make this type of weeder?
Yes, I am working for the Farm Machine Research Center in Sri Lanka. We can easily make, even my country village blacksmith can make it because it is a simple one.
The manual rotary weeder is easy to produce at a small cost, and yet it is an effective tool to enhance farming efficiency. Wasn't that easy? Now it's your turn to make your own manual rotary weeder.